Hello, everyone, and welcome to our learning with Rabbenu Avraham ben Harambam on Parashat Shemot. We learned Bereshit. We're learning Shemot now, and that is the entirety of the commentary that we have for Rabbenu Avraham ben Harambam. So please stay with us. We only have one Sefer left in our learning. Our Parasha will be focusing on the following pasuk when Moshe Rabbenu was born and the description that is given to him when he is born. Pasuk says, "Vatahar ha'isha vateled ben." Moshe's mother gives birth and has a baby boy, and we know that there is a decree to drown, to kill all of the baby boys. And she sees that he is tov, that he is good, and she hides him for 3 months. Now, the hiding for the 3 months requires explanation. Why 3 months? What is that going to do? How is she buying time? How is she hiding him? But the question that we're going to focus on is, what did she see that was good in Moshe? Doesn't every mother see their newborn baby boy and consider this good? What makes one baby boy born better or more good than another baby boy born? Why was he given this description that no other child born in Tanakh is given this description? What defines Tov in this pasuk? And there are many different interpretations. We'll see a few of them just to give us an idea, a picture, and then we'll see the commentary of Rabbenu Avraham and see why Rabbenu Avraham's Perush is unique within his philosophy. So one interpretation is, what's Tov about Moshe? That he was a Bar Kayama. This is the opinion of the Tosafot, that Tosafot explains based on the reasoning that Moshe really was born at 6 months, and he was born prematurely, and a premature child, especially back then, was very rare for such a child to survive. And that's why he was given 3 months until he was going to be found out, because no one was expecting his mother to come to term for another 3 months. And this fact that he was a Bar Kayama, that they looked at him and they said, he's early, but he's good, meaning he will survive. He had developed fingernails and certain indications that the mother saw, wow, this is a child, he's going to survive, he's going to make it. That was the Tov within that interpretation. Another explanation is that he was born already with a Brit Milah. This is the opinion in Avot Rabbi Natan, and that was Tov about him. This is unique. This is a special quality. They didn't have to be given a Brit Milah in that sense. He was born with a Brit Milah. That's what Tov. What other characteristic could a baby boy have other than that? What could make him different than another baby boy? Other than that, I think that's the basis of that midrash. Third interpretation says that Nitmalah Habayit Kulo Or. This is the opinion in Masechet Sotah. Rashi brings this down in his commentary. And it's basically that when Moshe was born, the room literally lit up with light. Now, what's the basis for this midrash? Very simple. Where else do we see the word Tov? The first day of creation, right? Regarding the Or. The Or was Tov. And there's a connection sort of here that this Or, according to one explanation, is Or Haganuz. And linking that Or, that light, with Moshe Rabbenu, who is Tov, is this explanation that the room was filled almost like Moshe Rabbenu was born into this world, and he was so pure, a light shined from him, foreshadowing the greatness that would come about from him. Another explanation from the Mehabelullah says he wasn't crying. That's why he was good. Now, what's good about that? I mean, some babies cry more, some babies cry less. Why does this need to be indicated? It's very much rooted in the context of the pasuk, because again, she has to hide him for 3 months. So when she looks at the baby isn't making much noise and he's not crying much, right? His mother is able to say, wow, this is good. This is good. This quality of this child is good because I will be able to hide him for this extended period of time. That's what the Minhabulullah says was good about Moshe, as indicated by his mother. A fifth explanation brought by the Tur is that he was Yafeh, meaning he was beautiful. Tov, as in beautiful. What was beautiful about him? His physical features and characteristics. And this, in fact, is actually the reasoning and the lining that Rabbenu Avraham goes with. And we'll see the deep reason as to why. Rabbenu Avraham says, Ha'evarim beharkavatam umoshavam veyofi suratam utmunatam vegam te'um mizgam. That Moshe's physical characteristics, his physical attributes, today we may even say his DNA makeup was good. Now, why is the Torah telling us this? Why is the Torah indicating to this? Rabbeinu Avraham explains that this, in fact, was set up for Moshe to be the greatest Navi and maybe the greatest leader that the Jewish people have ever seen in history. Moshe had clearly worked for himself. He clearly made decisions. There's no absence of free will here. But Moshe was born. Borei Olam fashioned Moshe with the highest, with the peak physical characteristics to be able to become a leader and a Navi. And this is, again, not taking away from his free will, but this was almost part of the retribution, the redemption of the Jewish people. This leader was fashioned. Moshe could have squandered or wasted his innate physical characteristics. He could have chosen not to go in the right and proper path, but his physical innate abilities were endowed, and he was given these great physical qualities. One could say these great innate personality traits to the extent that a person is born with in order to pave the way for him to become an incredible and a great leader. This is the opinion of Rabbeinu Avraham, and you could see this thought sort of scattered throughout his interpretations and his father's Rambam. Rambam says that Asa Moshe, that Moshe was almost like made, that Moshe was almost created for this purpose. Again, he could have decided not to go in that path, but he was given the capabilities, he was given the attributes, he was given the physical characteristics, and he became who he needed to become. Now, this Perush is in fact not entirely always accepted. There was an opinion that was brought by the author of Tiferet Israel. Tiferet Israel is a very well-known and important commentary to the Mishnah. And Harav Yisrael Lifshitz, who wrote this commentary in the mid-1800s in Germany, he wrote this commentary, and it's really beautiful and fascinating. And there is a very controversial statement that he brings within his commentary to Masechet Kiddushin. Harav Yisrael Lifshitz in Tiferet Israel describes a story that is not found in any midrash or in any rabbinic teachings that we know of. And the story goes as follows. The story is that Moshe Rabbenu was leading the Jewish people, took them out of Egypt, and there were foreign nations that were fascinated by this sudden rise to power and fame, this Moshe Rabbenu, who took the Jewish people out of Egypt and did wondrous miracles, and they started to spy on him almost. And one king sent over an artist to, behind the scenes, sketch an image of Moshe. And the artist sees Moshe from far and draws an image of him. And the artist brings back the image and gives it over to the king and to a facial interpreter. Back then, they believed that one could, certain professionals were able to look at the features, the physical features of a person's face, and to indicate their characteristics and their behaviors and their qualities and their personalities. So they bring this sketch to this face interpreter, and the interpreter looks at the image and says, "This is the guy Moshe Rabbenu," and he says, "Yeah, this is what I saw. I drew it perfectly." He says, "This person has the worst, the most immoral qualities and personality traits that I've ever seen in a human being." And the king hears this and says, "This is a huge mistake. Either the artist made a big mistake or the interpreter made a big mistake," and he's very upset. But he says, "You know what? I have to see this for myself." And they actually go and they spy and they look at Moshe and they see that, no, this is really accurate. And the interpretation is accurate. And they in fact confront Moshe. You say, "Moshe, we're doing this study on you, and we're seeing that you this is what they're saying. They're saying that you have the worst character traits." And Moshe admits and says, "Yes, I was born with these terrible personality traits. And I in fact overcame them. And I made myself who I am today. I worked very hard in perfecting my bad qualities. And that's what makes Moshe so special." And this idea was in fact very much adopted by many Hasidic teachers. They love this concept, this idea, because it's inspiring. It fits with a lot of Hasidic thought that Moshe overcame tremendous personal challenges and qualities in order to become the holiest man who ever lived. The problem with this story that the Tiferet Israel brings, and in fact, the story was so attacked and rabbis were so furious from the story because it doesn't appear in any rabbinic literature. In fact, the story is first attributed to Aristotle. It's a very ancient story that's attributed to Aristotle and later to one of his students. And it sort of was morphed and was morphed into becoming a story about Moshe. And people knew this, and they knew the origins of the story, and they saw how the Tiferet Yisrael attributed the story about Moshe, and printers and rabbis were so furious at the incorporation of the story in the commentary of Tiferet Yisrael that printers started to censor out this story from the book of Tiferet Yisrael because the origin of the story is certainly not authentic and is not about Moshe. And we see over here two different views. We see the view of Rabbenu Avraham, which says that Moshe was born with everything that he needed to become who he became. Again, obviously, it was a tremendous amount of effort and a tremendous amount of work, but it was almost like a present that Hashem gave to Am Yisrael, the perfect qualities of Moshe to become this perfect Navi, right? And there's the opinion of the Tiferet Yisrael, which is different, which is that Moshe had to overcome unsurmountable odds, harder than any other human being, to perfect himself. And that's what makes Moshe so inspiring. That approach seems to be unauthentic. The approach of Rabbeinu Avraham seems to have a lot more support in rabbinic literature, and that's his approach on the physical, natural attributes of Moshe that is declared and described from the onset of his birth. Ki Tov Hu. Thank you very much for joining us for this learning of Rabbeinu Avraham ben Harambam on the Parasha. Hope to see you next week with Parashat Va'era.